Good evening, everyone. So I'd like to call the April 15th, 2026 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And in attendance are Chair Donna D., Vice Chair Jim Johnston, Supervisors Dawn Dowling, Antia Consorto, and Nancy Widows. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli. Is Stan? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Township Operation Manager Jeff Eastburn and Township Secretary Stacy Hollis. And there are 14 members of the public. We can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, good. So before we start public comments, I'd like to make two announcements. The first announcement has to do with the Franklin Preserve Farming Initiative. I'd like to remind everyone that this initiative is focused on 25 acres of open field that has been mowed by Kenny Roberts at no cost to the township for the last 10 years. The field is currently taken over by several invasive species, including poison hemlock and thistle. These fields should not be characterized as a meadow. In an effort to find a way to control the invasive species in the field while still providing access to residents, the township explored alternative ideas to manage the fields. One of these ideas was the farming initiative. The township worked closely with Chester County Conservation District and DCNR to develop the plan. An AG erosion and sedimentation control plan was developed with Chester County Conservation District, and our solicitor was asked at the March Board of Supervisors meeting to create a lease agreement, and that vote was 5-0. This lease agreement was sent to DCNR for their review. The review included DCNR staff that went beyond the staff we were working with. DCNR stated that they had concerns with the lease. They stated that the idea of a demonstration farm could be acceptable by the National Park Service, but they would need to see a concept drawing along with detailed proposals summarizing educational components, including signs, displays, etc., types of education being proposed, public access areas, features, and a plan for how it will be maintained. Based on this feedback, we are not pursuing this farming option. We need to discuss at a future meeting how we're going to manage those fields, including the invasive species. DCNR had indicated in their comments that it is permissible to have a farmer mow the field at no cost or to charge a township a fee for land management services. So I just want to make sure the public was aware of that. The second announcement was an executive session was held on April 6th. The board met with our solicitor to discuss the feedback from DCNR on the lease agreement. Okay, so now we're going to be just the lease agreement, the feedback from DCNR, what I just mentioned to you. All right, so let's just want to move on to public comments. Just remind the folks, the board welcomes public comments relating to tonight's action items on the agenda. And we say action items, we mean items that require a decision or a vote. Commenters must state your name and whether you're a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Each resident or non-resident taxpayer will have the opportunity to make a public comment on action items. So you have one opportunity to make public comments. Commenters should direct their comments to the board and not to individual board members or members of the staff. The board will refrain from addressing your comments as they are being expressed, but instead, at its discretion, may comment at the end of the public comment section or at the time the action item is discussed. Our silence should not be viewed as an agreement with what is being said. So let me open the floor to public comments. Yeah, I would stop. Please wait till you get, yeah.
Nancy Morris, resident. I'm really relieved that we're not going to pursue the Franklin Township, Franklin Preserve idea. I did speak to Dan Maloser today, and he had no idea that we have a impaired stream running through it. He said that would change everything. So we would have to go back with him and provide accurate information. He also didn't know that we had sprayed nitrates, and he said, as a hiker himself, he would be very uncomfortable hiking on trails that have been sprayed with nitrates. So I look at it as a financial perspective, we're spending $1.1 million to remediate that stream, and then to turn around and to pump nitrates and soil erosion back seems very risky. I don't know if Pannoni was communicated to provide guidance. I know he wasn't. So it's a double story, but if it ever comes back, we need to make sure that people understand all the components of it, not just one. The thing to say is I would like to join the FSA. Been told nothing other than I'm on a waiting list. I don't know how. I don't know how many people are on the waiting list. I don't know who chooses. There's no way to know how the process goes. Very oblique. Uh, and I'm not sure that it's a democratic process. So I'm going to continue to investigate whether the process is fair, open to all residents, democratic. And if anyone can show me that it is already, I'll be thrilled. And I'd like to know how many people have been on the waiting list and how long I have to wait to get on in the club. Jim, I know you've been in the club. You're in the club. You should have some of this information, but when I ask you, you don't share anything. So I would love to hear. I'll go to a club meeting and maybe the club members can tell me, but it should be quite public. We're hunting on public land. I've talked to other attorneys. They said, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy.
For the record, I'd like to say that I have answered you and I asked you to come to our meetings at the end of the month so you can see.
Be there, and the whole process will be revealed.
We can talk to you at the meeting. The FSA will talk.
Like,
It is a public meeting. Anybody can come.
okay. Pro was so organized. I mean,
The
so
FSA is very
different.
organized as well.
All right.
You'll
Yeah.
see.
So different. All right, thank you.
My name's John Auerbach. I'm a Franklin Township resident for 46 years and a former supervisor. These comments are related to the Franklin Preserve. Franklin Township has a long-standing precedent of farming on preserved land. A review of the 7 larger preserved parcels show that approximately 641 acres are actively farmed today, including the following properties. The Ford Farm on Appleton Road, it's 149 acres. The Amish Farm at Stricklerville Road, it's 108 acres. The 896 Winery, Sheep Farm, and Black Angus Farm, 126 acres. Chesterville Farms on Wickerton Road is 101 acres. The Boxer Farm on Penick Bridge Road is 55 acres. And the Schultz Farm on Walker Road, 28 acres. And the Craig Rubidoux Farm on Auburn Road, 74 acres. Given this context, the objections to farming Franklin Preserve appear to be inconsistent with how lands are preserved in Franklin Township and are currently used. More broadly, farming plays a critical role in maintaining the township's rural character. It helps it helps prevent residential and commercial overdevelopment while keeping the land in productive use. At the same time, farming remains an economically challenging industry. Public pressure that makes farming less viable can unintentionally encourage landowners to sell or convert their land to non-agricultural uses. For these reasons, it's important for Franklin Township Preserve, not in isolation, but in the context of existing practices across the township, and ensure that decisions support both land preservation and long-term viability of our agriculture. If farming is not an option, a no maintenance cost option would be to just leave the land fallow and allow it to transition to forest, a completely natural function. There are hundreds of acres of undeveloped land in Franklin Township that are currently in this state.
Thank you, John. And
Hi, is it on? I guess. Hi, I'm Nan Latimer. I'm a resident and a taxpayer, and I'm not a farmer, but I live on a farm. So I'd like to talk about 2 things, the project at the park, and I also want to touch on Pro. Can I do that as well? Okay, so as I said, I live on a farm, and Kenny Roberts farms the hay off my farm. So you forgot me, John. I have 60 acres. And I also like the pollinators, and I like to do things on the farm that I can do because I have all that land. And what I'd like to say is that when you are responsible for farmland, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off between what the farmer does, that he does the farming, he supplies the product to, in my case, I think some of it goes to his feed, some of it goes to the mushroom folks, as well as what I give back to the pollinators. So for instance, when I moved there, did a whole lot of mowing, and I still do a lot of mowing, but every year I stop mowing some. And I mow it maybe twice a season to get it done. This year, I'm putting in a wildflower meadow instead of the front of my house because I need to keep an eye on it because, as John mentioned, there's invasive species. I'm following up here at the park in the next township, which everybody loved and is lovely, but it's choked full of invasives right now. And I want to see how that ends because it's not that easy to do the pollinators. It's not as simple as just stopping mowing. That doesn't work. I did try that and Kenny said, okay, go ahead and do it. And it was full of thistle. Yeah, that was a mess. So what I would like to say to the board is that when you make your plans at the park, I guess we're not going to farm it, that you would give and take, that just don't leave that field open and fallow. You should maybe try a corner of it and do a meadow or I'm really sorry that you're not going to do the crops, to tell you the truth. I think it would be a good mix. I absolutely do believe it. Because the other thing too is, and I'll talk to Nancy, she has horses. When you take out a flake of hay, what do you think? Where'd that come from? Yeah. So somebody planted it, somebody harvested, yeah. And this year was a hard hay year. I had to buy hay from Canada because I couldn't. I just think that I applaud you all. Keep on. Keep trying to do it. And I would not criticize, there's some criticism. And maybe other, I would do that. That's nuts. Don't do it. Now, in the comprehensive plan, I'd like to mention there's a whole section on that. Maybe read it and see what we're doing. In the comprehensive plan, there actually is a section that spells out and it had that it should be way that in the park that we try crop farming and you were doing it. So that's one thing you could have checked off that you did, but now we're not going to do it. And I'm sorry about that. Actually, for the pollinators, the worst thing, and John touched on this, is development. People that live in developments that have True Green come out and spray their fertilizer and do all that stuff is horrible. I don't fertilize what I mow. Kenny puts down some fertilizer, but I don't do any of that. So just to keep that in mind for people that are criticizing this project, I think you're totally out in space. All right, enough for that. So let's talk about Pro. Well, last time I was here, I talked about Pro. I think that Pro had gotten too large with too many things to do. And I know, Dawn, that you've taken over a lot of that. One thing really close to my heart in the comprehensive plan that Pro was that they ever did is that I really want in the comprehensive plan to have our trail system be connected. And I do believe if you get rid of Pro tonight, that's fine. You can do that. But I still would like to see a small group of individuals who would please look at the comprehensive plan and start to make a plan to connect all of the, not just in our trails, but in other places, because people do want to walk. The other thing is that there is a survey that was done for the comprehensive plan for the residents. Everybody should take a look at that because everybody that fills it out, it's filled out any sort of survey for agriculture and they want to get out and walk on the trail. And even though you guys I was a supervisor too. I mean, all three of us were supervisors at some point, but you don't ever forget what you represent or the people that filled out that survey. Even though you may not be pro that stuff, tough, they are. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Nan.
Yeah, how do I turn it off?
And I would like to thank you, Nan, because I was there and I know Kathy Goen and I know all of you that worked on the comprehensive plan. I have read the comprehensive plan. I know what's in it. I tried to start a small pollinator meadow at the park. I met with them. I met with them. I did all my due diligence. I asked all people on the pro to help me. Nobody helped me. I found out that that was over both the wells, which I have told everybody. I am not going to spray Roundup over 2 wells, the park and Betsy's well, and be responsible for that, even though they told me it would be
Right.
safe. I don't believe that for a second. So I didn't do that. So I have looked into all this stuff and I've worked so hard to do all this stuff. When we talked about this meadow, we did our due diligence. We went to all the people we needed to go to. We talked to all the park people we needed to go to. I want you all to know that we are not twiddling our thumbs. We are crossing the Ts and dotting the Is and looking into all of this. We are not, I agree with most of what you're saying, and I would like to be able to work together. There are many reasons that we did not do connective trailers. And that was because of the problems with DCNR right now. That's not to say it's off the docket. I'm just saying there are things that happen I want people to understand. And if we can keep moving forward, and there are people interested in the trails still. And I would like to say that we are not disbanding the pro because of the pro. We are disbanding the pro for different reasons, which will be followed up with today.
Okay, right. And remember, when you connect the, let horses on them, please.
You're talking to a horse girl.
Well, I know, but
100%.
That's why I'm here, and I want to make sure that we don't forget our furry friends, the horses.
You give Cat right behind, crossing and everything, everybody else is urban. So
Right. And also, Dawn, as you know, connecting the trails is really one little baby step at a time.
Yeah,
It's not like you're going to be able to do it in 12 months.
absolutely, absolutely.
More like 12 years, so.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Mary Craftsman, taxpayer, 40-year Franklin resident. I have 2 comments. First, I'll go into the preserve. What John mentioned about the Boxler Farm, the Chester Hill Farm, the Amish farm on Stricklerville, those are all ag easements. They are not preserved farmland or the Franklin Preserve. There's a huge difference. Those are actual farms. And I'll be the first to tell you, I believe in agriculture. I am so happy I'm living in an agricultural area in the farms. But there is a huge difference than for a preserve that people hike on and it's for recreational use. And I don't know that I would have really had a huge problem with the use of this farmland if it had been put out to the people and that's what the people wanted. But this was sort of done on the side. And it showed up at a meeting that the lease was being negotiated, that the studies were all done, everything was done. The other issue I have with it, without any lease, which was supposed to happen in 2027, without any approval from the township, we have a farmer that went out and sprayed 26 acres with nitrogen. And if anyone knows anything about nitrogen, and most farmers should, it's a carcinogen long-term. It seeps into the water, in the groundwater. It stays there for years and years. MS4 that we're spending $1.1 million to remediate part of the west branch of the White Clay Creek and the streams and tributaries through there will be impacted negatively with additional nitrates from what was sprayed illegally. There was no authorization to spray that ground. And what I'm going to say to the township supervisors, and you've all read my emails, I hope, is on top of not being authorized, there is no availability of what exactly was sprayed, what parts per acre were sprayed, what the wind conditions were sprayed, any of that, which is all legally required for a farmer to maintain. And I do not understand, when I requested this information, why the township, as a responsible governing body, has not requested that information from the farmer who sprayed it and took down trees to get the tractors in, from what we can see. Okay. I'll get off of that. It's just upsetting that this was sprayed without any knowledge. And it was dismissed as, well, that's what happens, that's common in agriculture, but not on a preserve where people hike. And where once you hike, that nitrogen is stuck to your shoes and it's carried into your house and your car and everything else. It sticks around a long time. Regarding the pro, before you vote, I would just like to say I agree with Nan, and I think that the pro has done a lot of work. I know that they started reforesting Franklin Preserve down at the bottom with, I don't know, 200, 500 trees. I'm not sure what it is. I know that we used to have a gentleman in the township, Greg Sachs, who was a very hard worker and worked on a lot of this project. But when you look at the comprehensive plan, the involvement of the pro, and I'm not talking about, last meeting, Easter egg hunts and all that. The involvement of the pro and the people that were on that committee and their knowledge on plans to preserve the agricultural and rural community of here were vital. They are vital. And I would like to know, as you said, staff will take over some of this. What staff is going to coordinate with property owners and land trusts in the Chester County Parks and Preservation Department to continually work on easements and preservation? What staff member is going to leverage funding sources for these projects? These are all pro responsibilities in the comprehensive plan. Or are we going to spend time rewriting the comprehensive plan so we don't have to utilize people on pro that it appears is being dismantled because of some sort of communication conflict versus actions that were really taken? And I just think that the board as a whole should think really hard of the resources of very caring, dedicated people that have worked very hard on these easements, preservation, and on cleaning up the trails, helping with the trails, planting trees, planting gardens. There's a lot of work that this pro board has done. And I mean, I was not on it. I did not participate, but I am very thankful for all of those members that did. Thank you, Nan. You weren't on pro? Okay, sorry, I thought you were. So anyone who was on pro, I appreciate all the work that you did. And I hope that you, as a board, will continue to understand what they've provided for this township. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comments? Anybody online? All right, good. Let's move on. Does the board want to make any comments? We can hit it at the agenda items. Okay. Just wanted to give you an opportunity. All right, let's move on to approval of minutes. So let me make a motion that the board approve the February 2nd, 2026 Board of Supervisor Workshop Meeting minutes. Thanks, Jim. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, we have 5-0. And then I make a motion that the board approve the March 18th, 2026 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Okay, thank you. And any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, Jim.
Okay, the treasurer's report. It's a monthly report of the township financials for the month of March 2026 and year to date. The March 2026 treasurer's report includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements of transfers of $294,703.24. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $4,192.60. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $4,800.08. Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $77,660.20. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80. And the Wastewater Treatment Plant fund with disbursements of $0, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $3,059,140.55. So I'll make a motion that the board approve the March 2026 Treasurers Report as presented by myself. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Donna. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the zoning report for March 2026. In the month of March 2026, 10 permits were issued, $2,173.46 in permit fees were collected, and 7 inspections were performed.
And now we have the Planning Commission report from Paul Agassi.
So on April 2nd, the Planning Commission met. Their first order of business, since it was their first meeting, was the organization of the Planning Commission. As before, Dr. Hoffman was elected chairman, Dr. Harris was elected vice chair, and Mr. Gontaj was elected secretary. The first main order of business was the sewage planning module for One Spring House Lane, which on the recommendation of Stan Corbett, they approved, and that's on your agenda tonight, I believe. Then there was the Woods Edge subdivision that received extensive discussion. There were 5 standout items at the meeting. The first is limited access to the development. The main access road, which is not in Franklin Township, is rather narrow, and this presents a number of problems, most notably for buses and for emergency access. The second topic was the environmental impact of the development on the existing woodlands. The present proposed layout cuts the woodlands up, which has a negative impact on the continuity of the forest. It was suggested that the plan could perhaps be rearranged in such a way that while the forest loss would be somewhat similar, the remaining forest would be whole rather than broken up, which is an important environmental issue. There was some discussion concerning sidewalk and trails within the development, and the Planning Commission was in favor of a loop trail that went around the entire development and wanted options that preserve the potential for trail connectivity. The fourth item was development's lighting, and perhaps unsurprisingly, the Planning Commission favored minimal lighting to maintain, minimal public lighting within development to maintain the rural nature of the community. And then finally, the remaining topic was stormwater management. And this proposal was made that this future homeowners association take responsibility and be required to maintain the basins and level spreaders. For those of you not familiar with stormwater management, which I was not this aspect of until the meeting, level spreader is something that takes the water coming out of a basin and spreads it over a broader area rather than limiting its exit route to a narrow stream. So it's designed to mitigate the impact of the exiting stormwater on the land. Finally, some things of note. The plan has not been reviewed by New London Township. And according to Mike Corcoran, who was there from New London, the reason is that they've requested that they provide an escrow to underwrite their assessment of the plans, and that has not been done. So the developer is going back and looking at additional changes, and the last item that came up was that the Chairman Hoffman was interested to know what the Board of Supervisors thought concerning the dedication of the roads within the development, whether they should in fact be dedicated or whether they should be maintained by the homeowners association. I'm looking for comment before.
Okay, so So we'll do that one first. So the dedicate, so it's very difficult to come to the board with that question. And what I would come back to the PC is say, we need context. Okay, so what's normally done? I would assume normally the township owns it, but I don't know that. So I would need to know what's normally done. What's the criteria for those decisions? And based on that, why would this be, if you're proposing it be different, why would it be different? So we just need some more context before we can talk about it.
Right, I understand that, and I think that we probably have to work with Jeff to pull all the information together. But I would point out that one of the issues that raises this question is the fact that there is no direct access to this proposed development from Franklin Township. So, for example, in order to get in and plow coming from Franklin Township, you would have to get through New London to get there and do plowing. So relatively speaking, the development is in terms of transportation, physically isolated from the rest of Franklin Township.
So give us some context and maybe, I know you said New London hasn't reviewed it yet, but maybe there's a way that if it's not dedicated to us, maybe it's dedicated to them. But
Well, that would be the homeowners association would be responsible.
to figure, it not necessarily, right?
What are you suggesting? New London, perhaps?
It could, I mean, I don't know. I think we,
Well,
so we need to see the layout. We need a lot of context before we can
I
make
will
any
say
decision.
that my sense, given New London's comment about review of the plan, is that they have a lot, very far to go before that discussion will even take place.
Maybe we wait. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you went through 5 things that I heard. It seems like there's a lot that they need to work on. And the limited access, how did the PC, was that acceptable to the PC, or did they say, go back and fix it?
No, the limited access is not acceptable to PC, and the limited access is not really acceptable, though they don't have an absolute say in the matter to emergency services. It's a big problem.
So it sounds to me, I'm let the rest of the board comment, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before we even come back and talk about, should the township take on the road, or should we let the HOA? It just seems like it's too early. It's because you're a long way off from actually having a plan.
Okay, so
I mean-
I would just say that the PC was looking for a sense of the board, if there was any sense of the board at this point. And so it basically go back and say there's not enough context. It's too early in the process.
I agree. We need more information.
Okay. That's fine. Finally, I'm sorry.
No, it's
I
okay.
looked down at my paper.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, having been in the meeting, there's, the only road into that neighborhood would be in New London. And we have from what I understand, there's other neighborhoods in Franklin Township where the HOA has ownership of the roads, not the township. And it is an access issue. So if we were to send a plow truck in to plow those roads, it would have to go through New London and down that New London road just to get into it. So it's not unheard of for us to have the HOA keep ownership of the roads. But again, we're miles away from even getting there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if I may just, I mean, I was mulling this over because I think it's actually an interesting question. I mean, there's a real problem with Blair Road. It is too narrow. I've been out there. But the other issue really is that I could see where, given its isolation from the township, one could argue that it is simply practical for the residents to have control over someone who is responsible to them to plow, because they're not going to be in any sensible plan for plowing. Should the township have responsibility of the road, they're not going to be first in line. They're going to be far from it. It's going to have to be a special trip that cannot easily tied into any plowing routes.
So once again, I don't want to argue it here now, but
Yeah.
if this is in Franklin Township, and I'm a taxpayer to Franklin Township. Part of what you pay taxes for is for us to plow your road. So I think there's multiple ways of looking at it, but I go, it's too soon. So
No, I
Let's
understand,
figure it
and
out.
I'm not unaware of that.
Right.
I realize in a sense they would be sort of double taxed. Finally, there was a discussion concerning a data center ordinance. And basically, the Planning Commission is looking for guidance from the Board of Supervisors on whether they feel there is an interest for a data center ordinance.
Hello, I have interest. It's something that was much talked about at the PSATS training that I went to as a new supervisor. I did get the Chad's Ford ordinance, which is the first one that's been passed in our area. And I'm happy to share that. Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of news articles about data centers and rural areas. So there's a lot of concern from citizens. In fact, all of the township residents should be concerned, at least in what it means to have a data center in their backyard. Right. So
And it's not saying no, it's saying,
Just saying-
finding out what,
Where it can.
and what the parameters are and how,
Yeah.
all that, and how to get energy and all. So it would make, I don't think anybody's arguing this. We need to do,
we need,
yes.
we need an ordinance.
This one, yes.
Well,
It might take a while, but
the
we
one
need one.
question that, to be honest, arises in my mind is whether a data center would naturally be funneled into a special use district, which is sort of designed to accept things that we don't necessarily plan for. And so that's something that at some point I think it would be interesting to have a discussion on. I'm not asking for it now. We're a little ways away from that. But I agree, it's a real problem. And in a township in the Poconos where we have a small vacation home, they're going to get a data center. They did not have an ordinance in advance of being approached with for a permit. And they basically created a sort of a special purpose overlay for the site of the data center in order to establish certain parameters for it. And their ordinance was very similar to the ordinance that was distributed to the Planning Commission, I think, from Mr. Eastburn, that may have originated with the solicitor.
I think you're hearing from us, though, that, and I think we're all in agreement, right, that it is,
Yeah.
that they are happening. They actually had that the energy use and water use is a concern. And I'm not against, I'm not against it. It's just that we need, if you have nothing, then you
Right.
put yourself out there. You need to have some parameters.
Right, that's what Penn Forest Township in the Poconos found out. Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, I think that would be an excellent direction for the planning commission to take. And I'm happy to help you. And I have shared information with Mr. Eastburn as recently as this morning.
And I pushed it in.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
so
when I saw it.
lawyers are talking about this, and that's generally when things start moving. So I'm happy with direction from the board. I'm happy to assist.
We did receive a sample ordinance from Chester County Planning regarding the data center ordinance, and the Planning Commission has that.
That's a really good starting point. We've all looked, folks like me, men and women like me have looked at that and have nodded our heads approvingly. So.
So that was a good report, Paul. You came with some really good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paul, before you leave, did you talk about the planning module you approved? I don't remember.
Yes, that was the first item. I basically sort of just breezed through that.
All right, thanks, Paul. Next is the Franklin Township Roadside Mowing and Brush Removal Bid Award. This bid was advertised in the Franklin Township website and in the daily local news in their March 19th, 2026 and March 26th, 2026 editions. The bids were opened on April 8th, 2026, and we received a single bid submitted by Yardworks, Inc. That bid is recommended to the board for approval. According to the calculations completed by Melissa Ortego, the 2026 bid prices represent approximately a 15% increase compared to the 2025 prices. previously approved by the Board of Supervisors. However, the proposed 2026 prices fall within the budget parameters established by this or for this board for this year by the Board of Supervisors and Melissa Ortega, the Township Controller. So with that, I'll make a motion to award the 2026 Franklin Township roadside mowing and brush removal bid to Yardworks Inc. based on the requirements that the company submit their insurance certificate and performance bond. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Antia. Okay, any discussion regarding the bid? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
The rate increase was
15%. Yes.
50 per minute.
No, sorry. I didn't have my coffee.
So I'm going to move on to some grant applications that we're planning to make. You've heard me talk at plenty of meetings about MS4 and the expense, and we are working very closely with our partners, Pannoni, which is the folks that are helping us do this work, to get some grants. And I know both the Guard Grant Committee with Nancy and Antia and Dawn have also looked at this. So we have 2 grants we're looking at. And I'll start off with the first one. This one is due April 30th, so we need to get moving on this. So I make a motion for the board to approve Resolution 2026-007, a resolution that will allow our township to apply for this grant in the amount of $250,000, which will require a 50% match from Franklin Township. This project will help to contribute towards the township's MS4 efforts. Could I have a second for that?
I'll second. Okay.
Give it to Nancy.
Yeah, give it to Nancy. She worked on it.
Any discussion? So I just want to make, so we are going for 250,000. Doesn't mean we're going to get it. If we got, I'm not going to put any more. We appreciate whatever we get, but it's, we have gotten an LSA grant for the MS4 project, and we're able to use some of that information to put this grant together. So we're hopeful for that. It does require a match, but we're going to spend this money anyway, so I don't see that as rate limiting. Okay. All right, I'm gonna all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Auntie.
Okay, so I have a DCED Commonwealth Financing Authority grant. So I make a motion for the board to approve Resolution 2026-11, a resolution that will allow the township to apply for this grant in the amount of $300,000, which will require a 15% match from Franklin Township. This project will help to contribute toward the township's MS4 efforts. Could I have a second? Dawn, thanks. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment. I just hope the public, I mean, we had earlier meetings this year where we talked about tax increases, and it was kind of mind blowing, the amount of, at least for me, for the cost of some of these projects. I just want the residents to know we are trying. We are looking for whatever avenues we can to help reduce those costs. We're not leaving any stone unturned to make that happen. And I hope you can appreciate that. So thanks.
I'll add that there's a lot of work put in by a couple of the board members, not me, and staff as well. So we appreciate that as well.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Next up is the Franklin Sportsman's Association 2026 to 2027 Annual Charter. I make a motion that the board approve the resolution 2026-09. This resolution is to allow the Franklin Sportsman's Association to continue their partnership with Franklin Township. Do I have a second? Antia, thank you. Any discussion?
I just have
Yeah.
a question, because this is new to me. I've heard a number of people in my neighborhood say that they would prefer the hunting not be done on Sundays. Is that something we get into later when the approvals come up, or?
So the FSA follows the Pennsylvania Game Commission rules, and those rules dictate what we can do. So that's what we've been doing. We've been following those rules for the last 16 years in the FSA.
So I'll make a comment. I think I've said this a number of times. The FSA, I'm happy if they harvest the deer because there's so many of them. But in addition to that, they do a lot of work, a lot of volunteer work that is I appreciate, and I know the board does. So I hope this motion makes it because I think they do a fantastic job in that. It's a good partnership.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, that's me. The Springhouse Lane Sewage Planning Module Component 2, Section Q. This sewage facilities planning module is a requirement of the Chester County Health Department. This project was reviewed by the Township Planning Commission at their April 2nd, 2026 meeting and meets all requirements per Stan Corbett of ACOM. Section Q is required since the project meets the DEP standards for marginal conditions for on-lot sewage systems, and it is noted that the township has an on-lot sewage management ordinance. The homeowner still needs to obtain the proper permits through the township before the renovation of their garage can continue. So I make a motion based on Stan Corbett's recommendation for the board to approve Resolution 2026-10, a resolution accepting the sewage facilities planning module at 1 Springhouse Lane. Can I have a second?
Second that.
Thanks, Donna. Any discussion?
I'd just like to correct one little minor thing. It's very minor. It's actually the requirement of DEP and then secondarily the health department.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Guy Donatelli is here for the solicitor's report.
Good evening. I'd like to focus the board's attention on the pro amendment, the ordinance 2026-01. It is briefly stated an ordinance to eliminate a prior ordinance creating the pro, to have the effect of disbanding the pro. It was properly advertised in the Daily Local News on April 2nd, 2026 for this evening. I don't want to oversimplify it, but essentially it will this ordinance will disband the pro.
Okay, and with that, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-01, an ordinance to disband the Parks, Recs, and Open Space Committee. Do I have a second? Dawn, thank you. Any discussion?
I just want to briefly read something that I put together because I think it's important. I just want to stress that volunteering and being part of our community is more important than ever. And I don't want this to dissuade anyone from volunteering or being a part of any township event or program. I see this as a way to remove the administrative burden from our volunteers who have very busy lives. They no longer have to spend their valuable time on meeting agendas, minutes, or other administrative responsibilities. It leaves more time and opportunity for our volunteering to help with projects and programs that people are passionate about. So I hope and encourage everybody to continue showing up for our incredible community because this only works if we all work together.
I do have concern, and that is that I think there needs to be a systemic management of the kind of work that the pro was originally created to do. And I understand that events, like the Easter egg hunts, things like that will be more staff-centered. My preference would have been to revise this ordinance rather than, to abolish the pro, but be reconstituted at a later date if we decide. Sure, and without monthly requirements for administrative minutes and stuff like that. Quarterly, maybe.
Yeah, and I want to just make clear that the staff will oversee and prioritize any proposed projects that anyone wants to do. With that, they will assign some individuals to run or lead each project. And I know that the staff already has created a calendar with events on it and a prioritized list of things that are already started. So we look forward to see what we can get done this year and go from there. It's just a governance thing.
One thing I think that is not taken care of by that is who will work with people here on open space, on easements, that sort of thing, that active outreach that some of the pro people used to do. So that's a concern for me.
Right. And Nancy, you weren't here, but some of that concern was a negative concern where people were going to residents without our knowledge and knocking on doors. And the residents were coming back to the township and saying, who are these people knocking at my door asking me to do things? So I just wanted to mention that. You might not know that, but that was a concern of everyone here. So with that, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
And the only other item under the solicitor's report is the lease status that our chair has already commented on, so I have nothing further to report.
I do have another comment that I wanted to share at this time. We did mention that Kenny Roberts has been mowing that field for us at no cost for 10 years. And he's been so kind to buy us some time and say, we're gonna have to figure it out. We haven't figured it out yet. But he has agreed to continue to mow it for us for at least a year, maybe two. So just want to let people know it's something we have to figure out. We will do that. We'll maybe, I've already talked to you, but maybe get a small group together and think about it. It's not going to happen today. It's something that down in the future, and Kenny's buying us some time to figure out what we do. So I really appreciate the fact. And also, I don't forget, the Hawkins also mow fields for us at no cost. And they've also agreed to continue to do that. An issue, and keep on saying this, is the invasive species. It makes the product, the grass, less valuable. It can, this is your area, I don't know it as well as you do, but it's not as useful to the animals or to whatever they would use it for. So the problem's not going to go away. He's just buying us a little time, and I'm appreciative of that. Okay. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to introduce Paul Lagasse for the Historical Commission and Historical Architectural Review Board report.
Good evening once again. The Franklin Township Historical Commission and HARB met in April on the 7th, and the following were the topics that we discussed. The first was the Churchill African Church Cemetery, and we noted that Nan Latimer, with very great help from Yardworks and others, had removed and chipped the brush in late March. The cemetery is now much more open and walkable, although we still need to get some of the projecting brush stumps down to the ground level. And we will probably need to continue to deal with invasives either through chemical treatment, cutting back, or both. Personally, I prefer cutting back and then just treating the stumps because it's very confined. And we will also need to continue with ongoing maintenance. I let Reverend Sandra Taylor of Galilee UMAE Church in Avondale, which is a successor congregation to Churchill, know the current status. And I discussed with her the thought that Nan and I had discussed, which was to do some bulb planting by the grave markers, most of which are not traditional headstones. So she was pleased with that idea. We're going to, outside of probably daffodils, do our best to keep it to native plants. And I have an excessive amount of bloodroot growing in my garden, so some of it is going to be traveling.
I can give you some dandelions from my yard.
They're actually not native, but as Nan has pointed out, poison ivy is. Uh, So then we simply went over a lot of the discussion that's been going back and forth on America 250, which I don't need to really recap now because we talked about that at the workshop meeting in more detail than was available or about the same amount of detail than when we met. I also reported on the discussions that I'd had here and in London, Britain, and then in New Garden on the possibility of creating a Mason-Dixon Art Corner Coordinating Committee, basically to maintain communications, share grant information, and provide support to any of the townships, should they decide to proceed with something that is outlined in the plan. This is not designed to drive adoption or implementation of anything. This is basically designed to be a communication committee. But for example, London, Britain is considering redoing signage in their park near their Mason-Dixon Greenway Park. And that is an ideal project to pursue grants for on the basis of the information in the plan. And so I might find myself coming before you and say, they're doing this, I think would be appropriate for our township to just give a letter of support because it's in the plan and it's appropriate for them to be doing it. So I have to, I don't know at what point we will go. We've had general approval from London, Britain, both at the Historical Commission and at the supervisors level. We have had an enthusiastic response at the Historical Commission in New Garden. I don't know at what point it's coming up on the supervisor's agenda. I've been asked to be kept informed so I can attend and talk about it. And in Elk, I talked to Mary Gruber. I'll be talking to there's no functioning historical commission in Elk, so I'll be talking to the Oxford area. It's a Oxford area planning commission. I want to say regional planning commission, historic preservation subcommittee. It's a mouthful. I think I got it right. And after that, that'll be at the end of this month. And then after that, I will speak to the Elk supervisors. And then, so I think that's pretty much it on that. And we have two upcoming talks. On May 16th, we're going to have a talk on Thomas McCain at the New London Township Building. I want to say Area Historical Society, and that we co-sponsor with the Area Historical Society. It's going to be by David McCain, who is actually a descendant of Thomas McCain and has written a book on Thomas McCain entitled Suspected of Independence. And then in the fall, on September 15th, we will be having Bruce Mauday talk about the common soldier in the American Revolution. The talk will have the title Common Soldier, Uncommon Soldier, and is basically exploring, compared to exploring, say, the founding fathers, the important generals, this is going to explore the individuals who are on the front lines during the revolution. The times for all of these are at 7, and they're held, as I said, in the New London Township Building. So it's May 16th for McCain and September 15th for the common soldier. Okay? September, right? Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Let's see, an update on the America 250 celebration. The board did give a go-ahead at our April 6th workshop meeting for this event. Paul and I have been sort of co-chairs of the planning committee. The event will be held on September 12th from 11 to 2. And I've asked Jeff if we can get that on our website, I'll save the date and on our Facebook page. Lots of activities. The core activities will be an American 250th birthday parade, which will be mostly for children and families, where they'll decorate themselves and their vehicles, bicycles, tricycles, whatever, wagons, of course. And march to music, hopefully provided by the high school band, who Paul's on it. And next is the next big event is the Dare to Declare, when we will have people from our township reading the Declaration of Independence, which Paul will organize.
And so at the end of that, the plan is to invite the people who are there to come up and personally sign the declaration as part of the event. And so what we've done is we've taken a copy of the Declaration of Independence, and we've left John Hancock, but we've left plenty of space for the residents to sign. And we will probably have several of these so that it will be easy and many people can sign, because I'm assuming that this is not enough space. We'll trim off the white space so it looks a uniform color. And then, so that's, I'll bounce back out of this conversation. You can finish.
Thank you, Paul. That looks great. And there will also be a big banner, as a backdrop to the folks who are reading the Declaration of Independence. Later in the day, there'll be a fire muster, which will be fun. Both of our local fire departments are excited about this. They will bring their shiny trucks and let the kids explore them, and then compete in various skill competitions. Who can roll the beer, what do you call those things? Barrel, yeah, those things. So far and so fast with their water hoses, that sort of thing. And it's a lot of fun. And then they'll stick around to talk about fire prevention and sort of thing with people. And lots of other activities, vendors, historical booths. We're very fortunate to have so many folks interested in it. So the budget will come in under 7,000, and a grant application went in today for $2,250 to help support. So it's low budget. That was our direction. Low budget, maximum community involvement. So that's where we're headed.
They're also going to be so vendor fees contributing to help underwrite the cost of the event.
Right, that would be about what we figured, about $500, and then based on past.
Depending on the number of vendors.
Yeah, 20. That was for 20. And then in the past, local businesses have also donated. So we'll put that, yeah.
That will, what we've seen in the past is local businesses put some money and then we put their logo or their name on the banner, right? Okay.
Nancy, is there a plan for food?
Yes, there will be food. Well, I could cover everything. Trying to be brief. Food trucks, beverage trucks, so that there'll be something for everyone, from soft drinks to beer is the plan. I'll talk to our insurance people about that. But currently that's the plan, just makes it more fun.
Once you get to alcohol, I think we need some extra approvals, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're gonna come back. I mean, I know.
This is just
Right, you're
an
gonna come back. This
overview,
is a plan. This is what we're doing. So I think just.
not
You-
to September.
Right. And you're still working on it, and you need to know what's working and not. But because at the workshop meeting, we gave an approval to the concept, right? Go ahead but now you're just kind of it's forming. And so come back with them.
And our thought is to wait until we hear back, and it should be next week, I think, on that application for those funds from the Chester County Community Foundation, CC 250 organization. And if we get those, I think that means a go ahead for the project, because I don't think we can do it without it.
Well, okay, we'll talk.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
And
Won't be long.
you also have your rock, right? The rock.
oh my gosh, I forgot about that. How could I? That was important. Dedication of a veterans memorial. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
No,
We
but
have
that was important.
We have time.
It's important. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Liz. All right. So we did it. Okay, so we're at the end of the meeting. So I'm going to open the meeting for public comments. So let me just read the disclosure again. At this time, the board welcomes public comments on anything the attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether you're residents of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Each resident or non-resident taxpayer will have one opportunity to make a public comment. Comments should be directed to the board, not to an individual board member or the member of the staff. The board will refrain from addressing your comments as they are being expressed, but instead at their discretion, make a comment at the end of the public comment section. Our signs should not be viewed as agreeing with what's being said. All right, so let me just open it up. Any public comments? Okay.
Mary Cressman. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for working on all the grants for MS4. I know it's an expensive project and I know it's ongoing and I know it's a lot of work. So I'd like to thank you all for all your hard work and input on that. And I'd also like to thank you for having the insight to start talking about data centers. And I would implore you to work I hate to sound that way, but to go faster than is currently. And what I'd like to say is that Chester County is now being targeted for data centers. East Whiteland Township is in the process of fighting a 1.6 million square foot data center. And there's another one locally to this area. There is a company, it's like 1574 Centric or something like that, that is specifically targeting Chester County. And if they get in here before there's any ordinances, and thank you, Paul, for the work on that, we'll be in serious trouble. And I do think, as Nancy said, I think Chad's Ford has done an excellent job in writing theirs. I've read through their ordinance and it is a great model. I'm not familiar with the Chester County model, but I would say that we have to have that worked on very quickly. It should be a high priority. And I really appreciate the board and the planning commission's work on all of that because it's so important. We do not want a data center anywhere near our facilities. And there's a lot of open land that they could buy up and probably they buy it up at a premium and we'd be in trouble. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comments? Sure.
My name is Paul Smiley. I am not a resident. I am a longtime member of the FSA and volunteer dozens and dozens of hours for the township. And I just want to thank you for continuing the FSA and also thank each of you for all that you do. I know you don't get paid, and I've listened to some of the slings and arrows that have come at you, and I've been attending either virtually or in person these meetings and watched the board, even as it's changed members over time. I remember when John is on there, and just want to reassure you that you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and everything I've seen you do has seemed to come out to common sense. And, when issues are presented before you, it seems like the board works as it's supposed to and comes to the conclusion that makes the most common sense. So I just want to give you a vote of confidence and keep up the good work. Thank you.
So I would just, this actually comes out of the planning commission meeting. It's back to data centers. Chuck has an interesting perspective on this, and I have a lot of respect for the thoughts Chuck put into this. And Chuck's basic feeling was that our terrain is somewhat inhospitable to the construction of data centers. That does not mean we should not have an ordinance, I would point out. So, but we do not have a lot of large, flat, open space, which is the most desirable type of space. There, you probably could put together some stuff, but it would not be probably the sort of super scale data center that is very impactful. And looking at this, I'm 70, I've been around for a little while. I'm reminded of something that my brother said to me after the sort of what was sort of called the dot-com crash, but it was basically an internet-related crash. And he said, prior to that, you had a number of router companies that were basically all planning to build factories that would produce in one, so that each company would produce the amount of routers needed by the entire nation. That there was a kind of pie in the sky, money was being thrown at a problem. They were all going to make money by building effectively over capacity, and nobody was paying attention to what their fellow industry companies were doing. And I sometimes began to get the feeling that I know there's a need for capacity and all of that, but I sometimes get the feeling that some of this development is going to leave us with empty buildings that are going to take a while to find a purpose. And so while that may or may not mean there's a data center near you, it's still a problem to have an empty building in the township.
Dave Phillip, Township resident. I just wanted to thank the board as president of the FSA for approving us for another year. I appreciate you guys doing for that. I've been involved with the FSA since 2010 when we started back in the early days here. And I don't believe you guys have ever had any complaints about anything what we've done. And we look forward to helping and support you guys the way we have been on any projects you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Go around in the room like you did the ceiling. You're always doing something, so thank you. And also this work you're doing in the park, so thank you. I'm sorry, that's good, yeah. Anyone online want to make a public comment? Okay. All right, I haven't heard anybody, so I'm gonna close the meeting. So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at, like 8:12, okay?
I'll second.
It's Jim's job. All in favor, say aye.